Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now.
You guys have heard of open source before? You've heard the term open source software. You're about to meet the woman who coined it, Christine-Peterson, on the life extension of Geeks. Christine? Sorry, for Geeks. I said of. It was the wrong, the lights. Anyway, Christine.
Let's make it up. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Chris. So I'm thrilled that the talk we just had was about skepticism, because I was going to do a bunch of trying to convince you to be skeptical, and now you already are all skeptical, so that will help a lot. Oh, little technical adjustment here. Okay, so I've called this talk Life Extension for Geeks, and I love to talk to geeks about life extension for three reasons. One, you tend to be very smart, you're technical, and you can handle complexity. And the complexity part is particularly important here. For example, in dealing with your Macintosh laptop. So, very good. So that's you in the upper left. You love complexity. Complexity is nothing to you. You love it, right? That's a lucky thing, because on the bottom right, we start to talk about biology. And if you know anything about biology, you know that it really trumps us in terms of complexity. It's really tough. So I need to tell you, my approach to this. Here's something important on skepticism. Is that this thing? If someone comes to you and says, well, I'm a life extension expert, all the red flags should come up. It's like someone coming to this group and saying, I'm a computer expert. And you say, oh, which part of computers? It's like, oh, no, I do the whole thing, right? So this is just nonsense. And life extension is even more complicated than computers. So where do I come at it? This was just a hobby for me. Some of you know I'm involved with foresight and nanotechnology, open source software. But I've been into this stuff for a long time as a hobby, but it's slowly taking over my life, as hobbyists tend to do sometimes. My approach has been very personal. What should I do? I have this much time, this much money. What should I do? So I'm all about trying to help people figure out what they personally should do about this, not so much on the research side or anything like that. And one of the most important things is, I think our previous speaker mentioned it for his side, you got to make it fun. If you want people to do this stuff, you got to make it fun. Down in the Bay Area, we have a group, maybe you should start one up here, called the Quantitative Self. Have you heard about Quantitative Self? Yes, we have some. This is a group run by Kevin Kelly. It's basically trying to figure out measuring everything about our lives. And we get together once a month and talk about how that's going. So I just need to know a little bit about your background, a little pop quiz. How many of you, either in the past or currently, have ever read much science fiction? This is why I love talking to these groups, because it turns out that thinking about life extension, you have to envision a totally different situation. It's a very different future. And people who have read science fiction, to them, this is trivial. I mean, what I'm going to be talking about is much simpler than what's in science fiction. But if people haven't done that, they can't make that leap. And it's very hard to talk to those people about the future of just about anything, frankly. Okay, so this person is not, according to a life extension perspective, this person is not healthy. I don't care how old he is. I don't care if he's 200 years old. This is not a healthy person. That's a common misconception. People hear life extension, they hear longevity. This is what they're picturing. Help me out with this. If you hear any of this from anybody, say, no, we're talking about health extension. I don't use the term immortality. I think we should leave that for the religious folks. They should have a lock on that one. I think that's fine. So how about permanent health? How about just health? I like health squared. That's what I want, health squared. So here's our problem. Ever heard of the short story, They're Made Out of Meat? This is a science fiction short story. It's very amusing. It's also on YouTube. Don't go there right now. We've maxed out the wireless. But absolutely hysterical. When the aliens land, they can't believe that we're made out of meat. And they spend a lot of time figuring out how that can be possible, thinking meat. So meat actually can be a lot of fun. You know, for decades, meat works really well. It's a very pleasurable substrate to be made out of. The only problem is eventually things start to go wrong with our meat. And it gets worse. Besides the meat, our computational substrate is fragile gray pudding, which you can't back up. So this is a serious problem for us. Now, sometimes you see people who are doing things like hitting soccer balls with their heads. Now, would you do that with your laptop? And your laptop is backed up, right? In this group, hopefully it is. So if you or your kids are hitting soccer balls with your head, you might want to rethink that, okay? So it's a scary situation to be made out of meat and fragile gray pudding, because that's what we're made out of, and we can't back it up. So what is to be done? Well, this is what we want, or this is what I want. Just give me a pill. I don't care what's in the pill. It can be nanomachines. I don't want to hear about it. Take it once a day, as long as it works. I have life extension. If I don't want it anymore, I stop taking the pill. That's what I want. So sadly, there is no pill. There's not going to be a pill anytime soon. And these folks aren't helping with the pill. They spend a lot of our money. The FDA doesn't regard aging as a problem. If I tomorrow found a cure for aging and went into the FDA and said, can I get approval on this? They'd say, it's not, we don't regard that as a disease, so no, you can't get approval for that. Over at the Administration on Aging, we actually have a secretary for aging. They're for aging over there. So these folks, don't hold your breath for help from these folks. Or especially from this guy. He felt that even to want to extend your life was narcissistic and reflected people who would have a failure to open ourselves to any higher purpose. Now this is just ridiculous, because if you think about it, anyone interested in life extension is going to be around longer, so you have more of an incentive to make the world a better place. And that certainly fits the profile of the people I know who are in life extension. Fortunately, this group, the President's Council on Bioethics, has been disbanded under the new president, and he's not even going to use that name for it anymore. He's apparently just wants to get rid of this whole thing. Now, so who is on the side of life extension? Well, we had a life extension president. I didn't even know at the time that he was. Apparently, he is into life extension. But in terms of research, you know, there's research going on out there. There's the SENS Foundation, the Buck Institute, and the Kronos Science Laboratory, which is the only one of these things where you can actually, you personally, can go there and they will try to give you a hand. And I've been there a couple times. So there's a couple ways to come at life extension. There's the soft way and the hard way. As geeks, we kind of like to think about machines, and someday, yes, I hope we'll have machines that will go into the body and do repairs. But for now, we're mostly doing what's in the upper left, biological approaches. How do we bootstrap off nature's molecular machinery to repair our own systems as they run into trouble? In the longer term, especially for this group, the goal of programmable systems. That is what we want. And here's a long-term vision of one of these hard systems, something programmable going into the body to make a change. Yes, someday we'll do this. But meanwhile, we're in sort of a buying time scenario. All you can do right now is look at all the things that are possible right now and try to buy some time to hold out long enough for the folks at the Buck Institute and the folks at SENS to have their research pay off for you. So, as in so many areas of life, it helps to be rich if you want to do this. Money is very handy. Some of the things I'm going to talk about are expensive. Some of them are free. Some of them take time. So, and to some extent, again, as in many areas of life, the time and money sometimes trade off. So what I would suggest, if you're interested in this, is to just sit back and go, well, what's my budget for this? You know, what's my money budget? What's my time budget for this? I don't want to overdo it. You know, I want to put something in, but not devote my life to this, not break the bank. So just, I would say you need some kind of a budget to help you get through this. Your doctor. Is your doctor your friend in your life extension goals? Probably not. And it's not because he's a bad guy or she's a bad person. This is not what they're trained for. You know preventive medicine? Well, they weren't even necessarily trained for that. They're like in reactive medicine. So there's reactive medicine, there's preventive medicine, and then there's sort of hyper-preventive medicine. You're sort of going, I don't want to just be healthy and age. I want to be healthy and try to slow the aging process. Today's doctors just are so far away from being able to help you with that. So unless you've put a lot of work into finding the right doctor, you probably don't have the right one. But, you know, the good news is there's a lot of things that can help in life extension, and a lot of them are fun. I've got stars by the ones that are fun. Sex, yes, we got that there. Laughter. You might be surprised that I put the Can Be Fun star by biomarker testing. Hey, we're geeks. These are numbers. You can make them go up and down. You can make things get better. You have control over some of these things, and it's really fun to make them go up and down and to change them. So I'm going to talk about 5 of these things today. The one I like people to start with is stress reduction, and just because the gains are so huge, and it gives you a lot more energy to tackle everything else. Now, it turns out that what's going on when you reduce stress is you're making changes in your brain. You know, there's all this fluffy stuff out there about, oh, you know, meditate, it'll make you healthier. Well, for geeks, the way to think about it is, no, I want to make changes in my brain. I want to make changes in my DNA that are going to make me live longer, make me be healthier. These are very physical things that are going on here. Now, there's lots of ways to get your stress down that are fun, sex, massage. I've got this picture of meditation, and some of you may be looking at that and going, well, number 1, yeah, she's cute. Number 2, I can't sit that way for very long, so this isn't going to work for me. This is just symbolic. If you look at me when I'm meditating, I look like I'm sleeping, and sometimes I do sleep, but it's a huge payoff for you in terms of restructuring your body. Now, the picture at the top, what's that about? That's about relationships. And you know, relationships are a huge factor in your stress. If you think about, married men live longer, you may have heard that. Well, that probably doesn't apply if you're fighting all the time. So if you're thinking about who in your life is toxic, is it your boss? Is it your spouse? Who's making you miserable? Sometimes your life extension program can involve a divorce. And if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. Because what you're doing when you do these things is you're actually changing your DNA. You're not changing the sequence. You can't do that. But you can change the genes as they turn on and off. In 3 months, just through lifestyle changes, you can turn on and off over 500 of your genes. And that's why these things work. It's not the touchy-feely, fluffy stuff of, oh, you know, we don't know why it works. No, we have an idea how it works. It's a physical thing you're doing to your body. And actually, that's very cool. So, you've heard the touchy-feely, fluffy people say, listen to your body. Well, as a geek, if my body has something to say, why can't it say it this way? Just put it out there. I'll read it. So this would be great if we could actually get a digital readout. Someday, who knows? So this is what I would like. Another thing you can do is go on YouTube and type in dermal display. Not right now, some other time. And you can see a video about this. It's very cool. So you can't get what I just showed you. What can you get? If you're going to be doing this, what you're doing with life extension is you're doing a biology experiment. You've got an experimental animal. It's you. You've got one, okay? There's no control. This is a problem. The lack of control is a big problem. So you've got to do testing. If you want to know what's going on, you need numbers. As geeks, we have to have our numbers. It's quantitative, right? So you've got to get some testing. Before you launch into making a lot of changes, I would suggest get a baseline, right? You have no control, but you can get a baseline. You can say, all right, where was I now? And for those of you who are very young and maybe in your 20s, get a baseline now. You're as healthy as you're ever going to get for a long time. So find out what your youthful numbers are so that as things change over time, you can try to pull them back to where you want to be. So I mentioned Kronos. Kronos is a place you can go. They're based in Phoenix. And for a certain amount of money, which is non-trivial, you can get a very extensive amount of testing done. And I've done this 2 times. I may be able to get you a discount if you want to go. And I suggest, if you can afford to, you should do it. One thing I was pleased about was that what I was told was that, there's your chronological age, your birthday, based on your birthday, and then there's your physiological age. How's your brain working? How are your nerves working? And I was thrilled because they told me mine is 20 years younger than my chronological age. Hey, this is cool. So that's a number you want to know. It's a number you want to work on and try to keep it right where you were. And my physiological age hasn't changed in the last 4 years. That's pretty cool. That's something to aim for. And Kronos can help you do that. What if you can't afford Kronos, or if it's not in your budget? And that's probably true for a lot of us. Well, you can do this stuff mail order. There's, for example, Life Extension Foundation has mail order blood tests, and you can do them frequently because they're cheap enough to do. And so if you don't go to Kronos, I would suggest you do it. One thing to keep in mind, you can find out bad news doing this stuff, bad things that you didn't really, you had to know, but you didn't really want to know. You might want to get your health insurance under control. Yeah, I know, maybe they'll fix it in Washington. I wouldn't count on it, though. So if you're nervous about that, get your insurance before you find out anything bad. I've done a lot of research on health insurance. If you have issues, talk to me. I'll try to help you out. Supplements, yes. If I'm here today and tomorrow, if you have lunch or dinner with me, you'll see me. I pop pills at my meal times. So, I said earlier, all I want is a pill, 1 a day. Well, we can't do that, but we can do lots of pills per day. It's easy to take them. What's hard is to decide what to take. Most people, I'd say, are doing this stuff indiscriminately. And I can say that because I used to do it indiscriminately. I started taking this stuff a long time ago. I was young, I was dumb. I was not being careful enough. I'm trying to keep you from doing that. I said this is a biology experiment. If it's a biology experiment, keep records, right? What did if you're going to start taking this stuff, when did you start? How much did you take? How long? How did it make you feel? Why did you stop? When? What were the symptoms? Was there a problem? You think that you're sitting there thinking, well, that's obvious. Well, I didn't do it, okay? So I'm trying, when I was starting. So I'm trying to get you guys to not make that mistake. Keep detailed records. And before you even start, you need to think about, for supplements, you need to start thinking about minimum criteria. And here's where all your skepticism that we just talked about comes in. You've got to figure out what to take, if anything. So these are levels of confidence that you could use in deciding what to take for a supplement. Number 1 is just a simple chemical theory. It's an antioxidant. Antioxidants are good, I'll take it. This is dumb. This was very early on, people used this kind of thing. This is not where you want to be. And I've kind of listed other levels going up in terms of how sure are we that this is going to be good for you. Clearly, and this is an obvious point, the more risky the supplement, the more evidence you're going to want to have. And the more types of evidence, the better. Why do you want to require better evidence? Well, they can do damage, right? First, do no harm. I could tell, if we had more time, I'd give you some of my stories about things I did wrong and what happened. These things are additive, so just because it pushes you in the good direction, well, if you take 5 or 10 things that all push you in that direction, okay, now you're out of range. Your body has these ranges of things. A lot of things you can take thin your blood, like ginkgo. vitamin E, things like that. Well, don't thin it too much, you're going to have bleeding strokes, okay? So don't do these things. Vitamin C, your body is pretty safe. Your body just flushes it if it doesn't need it, except for one little thing. It makes you more able to absorb iron. Well, iron is good, right? Look on a box of Total, 100% iron. Oh, good. Got more iron. Well, more Americans are too high in iron than too low. Iron can give you cancer. So don't do dumb stuff. When you go to your regular doctor, and he or she does blood work on you, and you get this printout, it shows these ranges where you want to be in. Those ranges are not optimal ranges. Those are like, all they do is they take this huge bell curve and they cut off the little ends like this. So this is not where you want to be. This is just where people are. One of the reasons to go to Cronus is to find out where do you want to be. And with iron, it's on the low end of what your doctor is probably doing. Reading stuff in the paper. Can you believe anything you read in the paper about health or in magazines? You'd be surprised how poorly done these studies are. As technical people, the more you dig in, the more appalled you are by the quality of the work out there in terms of medical studies. And partly is because these things are very expensive to do a true double-blind study. So what they do is they go out and ask people things and just believe what they say. You can imagine how well that works. All the time, they mistake correlation for causation. And I think our previous speaker mentioned this too. Two things happen at the same time. One is the cause of the other one. This happens all the time. So let's just look at one. You may have seen, they said, oh, vitamin A and vitamin E, they actually can be bad for you. They can be more likely to die. Well, gosh, that's terrible. And some other folks said, did you look at all of why the people were taking these supplements? Maybe they weren't feeling well? And in fact, the guy said, oh no, 70% of them were healthy. Well, with our math skills in this room, we can figure out that that meant 30% of them were sick as dogs, possibly. And look, so those numbers of the people who are dying are under 30. So what does this mean? Probably nothing. And yet this got a huge amount of press. What this means is you have to be very skeptical of what's in the press. And the more you dig in, the more skeptical you get. All right, so let's say you don't have time to figure out what supplements to take, which I can almost guarantee you don't. So you need an advisor. You need to pick someone to tell you what to take. Well, you have to figure out, based on what I said before, kind of your general philosophy on this. How much of this stuff are you willing to take? Is your philosophy more, I'm a very young person, I just don't want to mess myself up? Or is your philosophy more, I'm an older person, I need to do anything that might help? You know, it's really up to you where your philosophy comes out. So this is a list from fewest to most, roughly in order, not perfectly in order, of various people or entities you could go to advise you on this stuff. Almost all doctors will not try to get you to take anything, really. Most doctors won't. And then you move down the list. The FDA actually is better than most doctors. They had the National Academy of Sciences give them a list, and that's what they give out now. It's not bad. It's better than it used to be. Then there's various websites. Real Age, Chronos is the place I've been pushing. Consumer Lab is a good website. Race to Helion is now, we're getting a little more edgy. Fantastic Voyage is a good book, but we're now getting more experimental, okay? Life Extension Foundation sells an incredible amount of stuff, and if you took everything they gave you, you would explode. So you can't take everything they want to sell you. And then there's what Ray Kurzweil does personally. I think he takes over 300 things, including some intravenous things. He doesn't suggest you do that, and the reason he does it, or one of the things that enables him to do that is, first, a lot of money, and secondly, he does a huge amount of testing. I think every week he does testing. So if you're doing that much testing, you can be a little more experimental, and he is. He's very experimental. He doesn't try to get anybody else to do this. So if you were to say, Christine, I don't have time for this, just tell me what to do. I would say, well, pick Consumer Lab or Fantastic Voyage and just do what they say. Now, the problem is Fantastic Voyage is a book. It's not a website, so it doesn't get automatically updated. I would assume they probably have a website where they try to, and they sell things too. You can buy stuff from these guys. So if you push me to the wall and say, I don't have time for this, just tell me, that's what I would say. Just do that. However, what I want, here's what I want. I want a website and a company where I can type in my age, my sex, medical conditions, and my budget. And it will say, fine, we're shipping you once a month what to take. And we will once a month send you an email that says what it is in case you want to read the email, which of course you won't read. Right? So if anybody wants to start that company with me or to be a customer, come see me because I've had it with this. You know, I've been doing this a long time. It's a pain in the butt. My poor mother has to put these things in the box. She puts all these vitamins in the box for me, which is very sweet of her, but you know, after X amount of years, enough is enough. So, and she can't do it for all you guys. Right up, I'll tell you that right up front. Don't ask. So if you want to do the company, come see me. Okay, so I hope I've made it clear. This is not for screwing around with. You got to watch how these things can add up. And most important, when you go into the health food store, there's stuff there they're selling over the counter, which are hormones. Hormones are signaling molecules in the body. These are powerful drugs. These are powerful things to take. And the people advising in the store are complete morons. So you can make some big mistakes, and we can talk if anybody wants to ask me what mistakes I made. They're kind of amusing. But I want to make sure you guys don't make that mistake. Hormones are not something to screw around with. So I thought, what can I do to get them to remember it? I don't want them to go home and go, what did she say was dangerous? Was it vitamins? Was it minerals? So I said, okay, I'll do this. Hormones can be risky, okay? Now you won't forget. And I want you to know this is not a sexist slide. Studies show that women like to look at women's bodies too. So. Now, another thing to keep an eye on is what you're allowed to take in terms of supplements depends on where you live. And see, the problem is these supplements are mostly non-prescription. They're generics. You can get them over the counter without a prescription. So they're not patentable. So that means that they're in competition with patentable drugs. Some of you who may have trouble sleeping, which by the way is a big issue in life extension, we have to fix that problem. You might take melatonin, which is over the counter, or you might take Ambien, which is a drug. Now, no matter how wonderful and ethical the people at the Ambien company may be, the fact is they would rather you not take the melatonin. They want you to take the Ambien, even if the melatonin is safer, which I think it probably is. So what that means, and they can go, thank you, they can go to the government and kind of lobby and say, you know, this stuff is dangerous, and they're not completely wrong. And in Europe, they won, okay? Go to Europe, try to get stuff, you can't get it in most cases. So just something to keep an eye on. If you want to have the right to do this stuff, we have to keep an eye on this. Every time somebody tries to regulate it, there's this huge uproar from people who use supplements, and we need to keep that up because otherwise it could be like Europe and we wouldn't be able to take it. So let's say we're getting a little more aggressive now. Stuff that we're willing to put in more time, more money, more effort. Well, we end up with, you've probably heard of calorie restriction. Calorie restriction is when you eat 30 to 35% less calories than an unrestricted diet. And you may be sitting there going, oh God, that would be really hard. And it is hard, but I know people who do it and they look great and they say they feel great. So, okay, I hope that's true. I will say one thing, which is if you go down this path, you want to be very slow and gradual about it. And it's a one-way path. In other words, if you're going to lower your calories like that and you get way down there, don't come back up. You got to stay there always. And the reason is you have now taught your body that you live in a world where famines can happen. And if you bring your calories back up, you're going to put the pounds on and you will never get them back off. So I've seen this happen. So don't teach your body there's a famine. If you're going to do anything like this, or even if you just want to lose weight, and we're going to talk about that too, I would say do it very gradually and slowly. Don't send your body a signal that there's a famine. Now, is this something where it's sort of an on-off thing, like there's some magical percentage of calories you get down and then suddenly everything is great? I don't think so. I've asked about this. As far as I can tell, it's a smooth curve. So what that means is you don't have to go down to 30 or 35%. Go down 5%. Go down 10%. It's going to be great for you. Some of you probably saw, just like a month or two ago, they announced how the monkey study is doing. They're doing this with monkeys to see what's happening with them. And they said, you know, it's really working. You know, they can't give us the final numbers until all the monkeys are dead. Then they'll know for sure, right? But they showed pictures. They showed pictures of the monkeys. They said, here's a monkey. These are the same age. Here's a monkey who's on CR. Here's a monkey who's not. These monkeys looked hugely different in age, okay? So if you want to look younger, CR does seem to work, at least in monkeys. And I have to say, if you really are serious about life extension, you look at this stuff. I have not gone down this path. Because they say one of the side effects is that you have cold hands and feet. My hands and feet are already cold. The idea of going through life with cold hands and feet, being hungry, is like hell to me. So I'm not willing to do this. But it is a very serious thing that may work. So we don't really want to do calorie restriction because we're too lazy and we want to eat a lot. So we want to mimic it. We want to mimic it some other way. You may have heard of resveratrol. This is the stuff in red wine that they think is helpful. They're working to make a product that they can get through the FDA. Meanwhile, you can get resveratrol that is not as well refined. This is how the FDA works. If you don't refine it enough, it's okay. If you refine it, then you have to have approval. So you can buy it now. Should you take it? You know, I told you my emphasis is on the bottom line. Do I take it? I take it. And it matters what brand you take. I take Jarrow Resveratrol 100. And what you do is you just up your dose until you get stomach upset, and then you don't do it anymore. You just lower it down. They've also found rapamycin, which seems to work in mice even if you start them on the equivalent of 60 years of age. See, for a lot of us, you know, anything they say you have to start at 20, it's too late. We missed the deadline. So we want something that'll start to kick in at a higher age level. They don't know why rapamycin works. They don't know if it's a CR mimic or why, but it does seem to work. Now we get into the radical stuff. Telomeres. You know, telomeres are these repetitive sequences on the end of your chromosomes. As the cells divide, they get shorter and shorter until eventually the cells can't divide anymore, and then you have disease and aging. So you can get them measured. You can find out what your number is, and you can buy a product. I believe it's called TA65, which is a somewhat refined, slightly refined product from astragalus, which I believe is an herb. And you can buy this over the counter. It's a supplement. And the claim is that this stuff will keep your telomeres from shortening, or maybe even lengthen them. Now, this is edgy stuff. Some people worry that if you do that, you might get cancer. But I will tell you the best information I have on this, which is that there's a company called Sierra Sciences. I know one of the founders there. Their star scientist is Bill Andrews. He's really hot stuff. He's actually a competitor to these guys who make this product. He takes it, and he says that the cancer thing is wrong. So what can I tell you? This is the best information in the world on this. So if you say to me, should I take it? The answer is, gosh. And in fact, I found this out doing this research for this talk, that Bill Andrews had this opinion. It's like, okay, that's good enough for me. If Bill Andrews says it, that's nobody better. There's only one little problem. Remember I told you it helps to be rich? This stuff costs $14,000 a year currently. So now, they're doing cream skimming, right? It'll come down. It'll come down. So watch this. And remember, skepticism. I told you what Bill is saying now. If Bill changes his mind, that's a problem. So you've got to keep your eyes open on this stuff. Oh, here's a tough one. And actually, this is how I met Chris. I was doing... You guys probably didn't know this about Chris. But I had, you know, one of the things, I was working too hard. You guys won't, of course, understand that at all, I'm sure. And while I was working too hard, I gained weight. And so eventually I realized, uh-oh, I have to do something about this. And so I took it off. And I knew a few other technical friends who'd been through this, and they all had done it different ways, which is kind of interesting. And I thought, you know, I have a lot of other technical friends who haven't gotten around to dealing with this yet. I should make a DVD, Weight Loss for Geeks. So I went online, I said, oh, you know, is there anything like that out there? And I found Chris Pirillo. And you had something that was very high at the time, very highly ranked on weight loss, your weight loss tips. So I contacted him and said, would you be in my DVD? And he said, do you do co-marketing? And I said, well, if you want me to, I will. And so we haven't made the DVD yet. It's at healthactivator.com if you want to go there and see the ad for it to see if there's interest. Any of you who've been through this and succeeded, lost 30 pounds or more, kept it off for 3 years, and are a geek, come see me because I want more geeks for my DVD on this. But, you know, we should help each other with this. This is an important issue because it, you know, not only, you know, we all know, yeah, it might give me heart disease, it might give me cancer. No, it's going to give you aging. It's going to make you like that guy in the bed at the beginning of the slides. Now that's something to be really afraid of. You don't want that. So it helps to exercise. I think gym class teachers have a lot to answer for here. They take young geeks and make them do things with balls that they can't do. They try to hit the ball with the bat, put it through the hoop. Why don't they just let the geeks do something healthy and make them healthier? So I think you do need to move around. Moving is how you tell your body, I'm not dead yet, right? Remember from bodybuilding, I'm not dead yet. This is how you send that signal. I'm a healthy person that needs to move around. You don't need to go to the gym. All you need to do is get one of these little gadgets. This is a pedometer, and the cool thing about this thing is it's a digital output. It tells me what to do. If the number is under 10,000, I have to go for a walk. If it's 10,000 or more, I'm done for the day. And be sure to get the kind that works no matter which way it's pointed. Otherwise, you have to clip it on your belt, which, although we are geeks, we don't need to always look like geeks. So get your pedometer, keep it on you all the time. At the end of the day, you'll know how you did. And if you do want to go to the gym, you know what the purpose of personal trainers is? To keep you amused and distracted while you work out. And if you don't believe me, listen to the personal trainers at your gym and see what they're doing. The vast majority of them are amusing their clients. There's a few that are, you know, being very hardcore. Most of them are being amusing and sweet. So, and you deserve that. This is something worth spending money on. You know, you've got to do that movement. Some of you have got this worked out, a lot of you probably haven't, and it's worth putting money in. So what if none of this stuff works, right? What if, you know, you do your best and you're getting up there and it's like, oh God, this just isn't working. My meat is going bad. And, you know, right now, lifespan is increasing 3 months per year. So things are good. We only need another 9 or 10 months per year of increase to have life extension break-even velocity, where we just get better and better and better. But what if things go wrong? Well, you could upload your brain. Unfortunately, we don't know how to do that. However, don't bet against it in the long term. One of my smart friends, Todd Huffman, is working on this. He's got amazing brain scanning abilities, and I would never bet against him. And this is his life goal. So don't, you know, keep an eye on it. Todd Huffman may pull it off for you. But let's say you're totally desperate. Well, there are people who will try to do suspended animation on you. They've been doing this for a long time. Now, you look up here and you go, well, she's telling us that they're going to freeze us like the ice. And the answer is wrong. That's out of date. The reason I use this slide is because of the glass. Because what they really do now is they vitrify you. They make you into a glass. They do this, the low temperature stuff too. So this is what you do when everything else has lost. You've lost the game. And you need a way to transport yourself into the long-term future where medicine will be better and can solve all your problems. Well, this is how you do it. And if you're not sure it's a good idea, just get the life insurance that pays for it. That way, if you ever get sick, you can change your mind if you want to. But once you're sick, you can't get the life insurance. So something to consider. So that is it. If you want to know about nanotechnology, you can go to Foresight. My other work-related thing is open source sensing, bringing the insights of open source to the world of sensing, physical sensing. But if you go to healthactivator.com, that's where I'm going to have my life extension website. It's where the video proposal is right now for our weight loss thing, Weight Loss for Geeks. And what I'd like to propose is that we rendezvous at GnomeDex 2050. I'm sure it'll be huge by then. We'll have a hard time finding each other. Chris will find a way, I'm sure, for us all to reconnect. But according to my lifespan predictions, I'll be around. Hopefully, most of you will be around. And I'm going to check up and see how you guys did. Did you do anything? How'd it go? Thank you. I think we're probably out of time. Two questions. Yes, wait for the mic, please. Oh, while she's waiting for the mic, let's do this one.
Hi, thanks a lot for your presentation. My name is Chris Krug. 3 quick questions. One is you said more sex for males was lead to extended life,
Yeah.
and I've studied Taoism. I thought it was the opposite.
What, you said what?
I studied a little bit of Taoism, and in Taoism they teach to hold on to your seed and don't give it away.
Right,
That will extend
right.
your life.
My way is more fun.
Yeah, but you're talking about science, so we're not
Oh, the
talking.
science. No, that was based on
So my
prostate
second
cancer.
question
Let me
is-
take them one at a time. I'll never remember them. Prostate cancer. We tried to see how much sex does a man have to kind of head off prostate cancer. And it just kind of, the risks just go down and down and down and down the more sex you have. So you can't have too much sex if you want to head off prostate cancer. Yes?
Second question, what are the psychological impacts of obsessing over your death and dying in your life and all this? What's the mental effect of all this?
The mental effect of what?
Of obsessing over death and life and
I think
counts of different things.
I think that is really bad for your stress levels. Obsessing over anything is going to be really bad. That's why you have to be, I regard this as a hobby. You can't stress out about it. That kind of defeats the purpose, right? So, you have to try to be calm about the fact that we're made out of meat, no matter how scary it is. Yes?
And finally, I guess science or pseudoscience. I'm using some of the skills I got in the last lecture about this. You're telling a lot of anecdotal stories, and you say it's a hobby. You consider this science? Are you giving us?
I'll tell you, this is
facts
very
here?
hard. This is very hard stuff. There's all this stuff, all the data and the published studies and the double-blind studies we want to have exist. They're not there, okay? They're not there, and in many cases they will never be done because there's no one with a financial incentive to do them. So basically we're in a tough situation where we're aging and we have to decide things and the data's not there. Given that the data's not there, we have to do the best we can. So I totally agree that the data's not there and that we're having to look at things that don't look that reliable, but there's no choice. There is no choice. And I think, did you want to give somebody else a chance? One more? Yes, go ahead.
How do we tease this apart from the cultural obsession with youth, particularly for women?
Her question is, how do you tease this apart from the cultural obsession with youth, especially for women? I think mainly what I tried to do is focus on the health side. I mean, it's not about youth. In fact, when I was young is when I made all my stupid mistakes on this stuff. It's not about looking young. It's about living healthier and longer. So, if people live longer and are very healthy and have wisdom, I think it will eventually turn that around. That's just my theory. And if not, at least we'll be alive and have a lot of fun. Okay, thanks a lot.
Turn it down.